Now, over the past several weeks, the frequency of deaths resulting from love turned bitter, right, has been witnessing a sharp uptick, both in Cameroon and outside of this country. Remember, a couple of weeks ago, news reached us from Ohio in the United States that a Cameroonian national, Christopher Takam, actually murdered the wife and then killed himself. And then, he called the police in between and said, there's a lady lying here, I just killed her. And before the police could get there, he had gone down himself. Now, much more recently in Boya, at the foot of Mount Cameroon, love turned sour again when a young man decided to squeeze the life out of a young lady he was apparently dating. And, well, love gets sour, Some people say the reasons could be found in greed, first of all, in infidelity, second of all, and now in multi-form pressures, including the financial pressure, because people get to get out of work these days with the pandemic spreading and stretching. And you get back home and the children have not eaten, they're looking up to you, and the mother joins the party, and the invectives are all being heaped on you. Thanks for coming, TATOH Kenneth.
I'm glad to be here again.
I needed to say Pastor TATOH Kenneth.
All the same.
It's a pleasure to have you around once
It's
again.
always a pleasure to be inside.
Right, we started discussing this last week.
Yeah.
And we thought we should continue because we exhausted quite a couple of themes, but we were not satisfied with how far we went.
Actually, we were discussing, and one of the things we said was that when people are under emotional tension, it is difficult for them to really reason normally, so they end up doing things the way we've seen.
Right.
And we were encouraging that it's good to culture one's emotions, because when your actions are informed by your emotions all the time, it's difficult for you to really have better results than what we've been experiencing, both
at home and abroad.
At home and abroad. And when it's at home and abroad, it's global.
Right, right. Which means it's not only limited to Cameroon, but we know the cases that are occurring in Cameroon, and they're quite disturbing.
Actually, in fact, as we said last week, including the ones we don't know.
Yes.
The ones that have been just in silence. So it is really disturbing. And
right, and because you mentioned it, just to tell our viewers that we couldn't do this for this installment. There's a young man who actually set the wife ablaze in Yaoundé this week because of infidelity.
Because of infidelity.
Right. I mean, so some of these cases just go underreported. But like I said, and like you just said, don't act on impulse when you're gripped by anger.
Actually.
Back off a bit and
reflect.
Rethink.
Yeah, because there are issues that a short retreat will actually heal. Yeah, if you just act the moment it happens, you just react, it will really becomes a huge problem. Right. As I often say that in social relationships, reaction matters more than action.
Okay.
Yeah, that somebody did something is not as important as the response or the reaction of the other party to what the person just did.
And let's look at those reasons once again. I just mentioned greed, infidelity, and the mounting pressures and so on.
Yeah, and if I would like us to really paint a little picture of some of the things that happen. First and foremost, imagine a girl has gotten, I want to cite an example, to the age of being in the university. Yeah, you go to the university, call it the University of Boya, and while in the University of Boya, say you come from a not very well-to-do family, and there are difficulties, and a mechanic is under the truck every day hitting the spanners, decides to take responsibility, either wholly or partially, to foot the bills. It can run from rent to upkeep and everything, and this often will be on the basis of an agreement or a promise to marry, and the young man knows he is sponsoring his wife to be. The lady gets to the university, and because it's a university, it is a universal place. Her reasoning opens.
Right.
She meets lecturers, meets other students. She begins to grow, and maybe her self-esteem goes beyond, over and above what she had before getting into the university. And all of a sudden, or maybe when she's graduating, or she's graduated from university, he tells the young man, I'm sorry, I won't be able to continue in it again.
After he spent all of his money,
enabling he has invested financially, he invested emotionally, and he has invested in terms of time. Yeah, and the man, in fact, if you are the people who will just take it with a pinch of salt.
Yes,
that's actually one of the things that we
yeah, because in a case like this one, and this is very vivid, and I think the ladies in Boya, the university, Chang, Yaoundé, you know about what we're talking about, right? Say yes and accept it and listen to the counselor, because there's a way out for you. But then that guy, he cannot go anywhere to say, refund my money, legally speaking.
Legally speaking, he won't be able to.
If the lady says, I don't want to be with you again, losses?
Well, but I think the 1981 marriage ordinance in Cameroon conveys a title to somebody who receives anything on the basis of marriage, called a depository. That in the case where the marriage doesn't work, you stand a chance of returning what you collected in terms of marriage. Yeah, if you collect in, but now the question will be, at that time, to what level was the arrangement formal? In terms of marriage. So it is a little complicated, and the encouragement we give people is, as a young lady, the person who is giving you gifts and you're collecting, he's not your father. It's not good to have that kind of mindset, because, as we said, greed is at the center of this. Some want to receive it so that maybe if their parents could afford just rents for a room of call it 5,000, they complete it from the resources from a man and live in a room of 10, 15,000.
Yeah, and get a flashy dress.
And get a flashy dress and get a good phone, iPhone 11, and to be able to live up to level with other friends who come from families that are well-to-do. Their parents are sponsoring them.
And that's peer pressure. You're not supposed to be
peer pressure. So that's one of the things that lead people into all of this. If it has gotten to a point where your family can sponsor you and you must be sponsored through this arrangement, I personally am of the opinion that don't go in for such a sponsorship.
But then you know, and I like this because it's getting very interesting. At the beginning, you actually painted the picture of that young lady who needs to live up to the expectation of her peers. Now she's bound to collect the money.
No, the issue is that you see, Desiderata said there will always be greater or lesser persons than yourself. Peer pressure has led many people to do horrible things. So there is no need wanting to, live. They used to say in pidgin, "In money the cook fine soap." If you want to live, if you want to live, in fact, there is no cheap ostentation. There is no way you can live a luxurious life. But it's cheap. You need money. What sponsors luxury is money. Yes. So if you cannot live within your means, when you live within your means, you will know that, okay, you have a focus. By the way, one of the things that make people comfortable, some even spend 5 years in the university for a program that's supposed to be 3 years because they are so comfortable. If you're actually having a pinch that, in fact, life is so difficult here, you will surely be very serious and leave the place. And if it has gotten to a point where your family can't even sponsor you, do other things. There are people who are, they are there, they are in the university and they are business men or women and are sponsoring themselves. Rather than entering into an agreement with somebody and tomorrow, after you've graduated, call it a degree in law, you start speaking that big grammar, that huge one, and you start telling the man is no longer your standard, is no longer your level, you are sorry, if you like you can reimburse over time. Come in, the man will not really want to just take what you're saying or what you're doing.
He actually groomed you. He actually molded you to become what you become. And
exactly.
Then you turn around and ditch them.
And the time value of money. The man, somebody said 10,000 today may be worth about
$1 million francs in 1918.
Exactly. So it is good to pipe down on some of these mindsets that some ladies have. Actually, greed is actually the generator of some of these things. If you accept the offer, make sure you live to the terms of the agreement from day one to the last day. Don't become too big a woman tomorrow and the man becomes some kind of person that, in fact, this is not your class to marry. His money pushed you to where you were, to where you are, So you have to live to your own part of the bargain. And then to the men also.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, to the men. Who are you sponsoring? The uncertainties are so many. The uncertainties are just too many that you won't want to, enter into something which you will tomorrow regret you invested in. Everybody invests for a return.
Okay.
Except you have become a philanthropist, that you want to sponsor somebody, you are just assisting a girl. Do it. Because when you sponsor and tomorrow the lady tilts her attention to another person, it won't be easy for you. In fact, except you say you are a superhuman being, personally I won't take it. So it is better you as a man sponsor your wife. Don't sponsor a wife to be.
Okay.
Except you are doing it just assistance. But if you have a secondary motive behind it, that is like this: I'm sponsoring this lady or I'm assisting this lady in order to marry her sooner or later, it is a discouraged endeavor.
Which means, in other words, you need to get the engagement arrangements formalized before you even begin giving out money. Which means that we should know that this is my fiancé.
Not even fiancé.
Okay.
I don't even encourage let it be fiancé. Let it be your wife. Because engagement is not marriage. What about people on their wedding day? On their wedding day, in fact, everything ruptures on the wedding day. So what about just an engagement? I always say that people are not married until they are married. Two people have promised themselves marriage. There are many uncertainties. Tomorrow, you say, okay, this is my fiancé. You sponsor. Tomorrow, the fiancé gets up and starts telling you. And at times, I used to even ask the question, okay, when you sponsor with the intention that this is your fiancé, it's an investment. I asked somebody, I said, okay, tomorrow this lady makes an accident and has an amputated leg. Will you still marry?
Okay.
She's thinking twice. Yes, it is not something you pray for, but those are possibilities that we can think of. If she has an accident tomorrow and her mouth turns and one side, will you still marry her? I say, no, I think. So for me, the best thing to do is when you have formalized marriage with somebody and it's your wife, you can sponsor the person, because at that time it is to an not to an extent, it is an obligation. Call it to an extent, it's an obligation. But if it is somebody you are still planning, do it with the notion that it may end in marriage, like it may not end in marriage.
Okay.
And if it doesn't end in marriage, you will at least, if you had prepared your mind from the onset, you at least have that possibility of receiving the information or the reaction of the lady with more ease than if all of your hopes were invested in it. You are sponsoring, because in such a situation, it's not only financial investment, it is investment in time.
All right.
Yeah, the man is waiting that maybe she graduates from the university first, or the man is waiting, or in fact the man, especially the disciplined ones, will say, okay, I won't have anything to do with another lady, this is the one I'm hoping on.
Right.
He invests his emotions into such a person, and tomorrow everything just turns sour. It is not called for.
Right, we're talking about this, and my mind keeps on going to that beautiful lady at the University of Boya who was stabbed to death by the boyfriend. But let's look at this case, because increasingly it's trendy. You get guys in Cameroon who get a wife, they get married, and then the lady is going to look for a job in Canada, for example, and the guy is here. Do you encourage stuff like that? Because that's it kind of links us to the Takam Christopher story.
Yeah, that is an extreme case which should happen if, in fact, as the last resort. The best of things, when people marry, they should do the most they can to be together.
Stick
yes,
to each
it is, especially for young couples. At least it can be better when the two of them have lived together, they have developed emotional maturity, they have developed spiritual maturity, they have developed physical maturity. At least it is easier to handle in such a case. But when somebody will leave from, call it as you said, from Canada, come and marry here, go back, the lady stays back here, and me, I don't encourage such marriages. Some even do traditional marriage, satellite traditional marriages. They stay and somebody represents.
Right. I know a couple of people who are going to be representing others this weekend in Kumba. Right. How I wish I could be a part of that delegation just to tell them that probably what you are up to is not encouraged by our council.
Yes, for me those are discouraged. Those are the things that are discouraged. You know, if you an exchange, for instance, during a traditional marriage, it's just an exchange of drinks. I'm exchanging with a representative. Come on, for me, I can't do that. I better marry at 50 than do such a thing. in my personal opinion, there are people who will not be okay with what I'm saying, but I prefer to marry at 50 if I must. So, and that is why the encouragement is that when people are getting to a certain age, it's good to plan their lives.
Yes.
Plan your lives incorporating your spiritual life, incorporating your career, incorporating your marital life. When do I want to settle? There are times that you can sacrifice traveling abroad because you want to build a family.
All right.
And then you do it and push that to a later date.
Yeah, because this is a lifelong commitment.
Yes, you can. That's last week I made a statement. There are people who can be succeeding on the career platform, but are marital failures. You see somebody. Imagine why am I building a career that I end up at let's say I'm retiring, and my first child is still in secondary school.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm retiring. Surely the person didn't plan life. If you plan and other mishaps come, it will be an exception, and an exception remains an exception. But if you plan life well, you said, okay, when you've gotten to 27 as a man, at least you start something to start tickling you. Am I not really supposed to start building a family already? So that normally your plan is, by the time I'm retiring, call it at 60, 65, the worst case scenario, my first and second children should have been out of the university, and at least the load and the burden on you would be lighter, and they also might also be able to help their siblings in order to get them settled in life.
All right.
So these are things you plan intentionally and far ahead of time. If you don't do it so, you will find out that at the end of the day, you are running behind time. You're running behind schedule. You may have the doctorate degree, you may have, but that's not all that there is to life. Right. There is a posterity you want to build. There is a family of yours you want to build. And if I become so successful and I can't build that, well, I don't know. Maybe they have other plans. Maybe they're eunuchs. They're called to be eunuchs, never to marry or something. Right. But if you think that is a part of your life that you end up marrying, it's good to do these things to plan ahead of time.
Right. You know, at the end of the day, I mean, after your intervention, the conclusion I'm drawing for myself and the others who are interested in getting solutions, you know, finding the way out of situations like that is, hang your coat where you can take it back down.
Exactly.
Right? If you place it too high, please, you're going to stand on a chair. That chair may not be there for you to stand up and get it. So measure what you know you want to have in your life and go for it. No more, no less.
Exactly. Because when people want to, you know, I always say that everything has an elastic limit. And drawn beyond its elastic limit, it will cut.
All right.
When you want to go drawn faster than the speed that your life can support, you will surely fall. Like now, I can't say I will leave to go and participate in Mount Cameroon race. I'm not trained for that. I can't do that. Yeah, because if I do that, I will surely I won't be able to support. And it's the same thing. There are people, especially when children meet in the university milieu like that. Some come there just to satisfy their parents. Right. Their parents can give any amount of money just to get them remain in the university.
Okay.
And then you're coming from a background, your father is struggling, your brothers are struggling, and they are doing everything, selling the cocoa or doing everything to put you in to give you an education. You go and you are trying to copy, trying to compare with people who are well settled in life. Surely you don't know what you are out to do. Right. Yeah. So
I guess when you come around the next time, we'll be looking at some of those main points from the proposed law on the family code, and where it touches on marriage, especially because I hear that the man and the woman are supposed to have a certain degree of equality in the way they run the homes and so on. Is that supposed to be an interesting thing for us to talk about?
From a legal standpoint, just to a very limited extent, but I think I'm not a lawyer, but as far as marriage is concerned, that has to do much with, one, biblical prescription, and two, the agreement between the couples. Right. I think we can look at that. Yeah, we can look at that. Meantime, in passing, and this is personal, I'm not sure if that's your take on it. I was discussing with Henry Kejan the other day, and we came to the conclusion that, well, the girls from the center, the south, and the east regions of Cameroon, call them the Beti, Bulu, and, Fang.
they don't get married because the bride price is way up north, which means if you have to carry a truckload of sheep, goats, pigs, and even cows, right, plus the booze and the money, then you just get discouraged from the beginning, and that's why some of those girls are stranded. Well, sorry if that's your case, right? But then if you get in touch with a marriage counselor, he could just tell you how to get about it and get out of your present conundrum. Thanks sincerely for those fine words.
Always my infinite pleasure.
Thanks a lot. I'll just give you all the best wishes from the entire production crew of Inside to your household and your siblings, those here and those abroad and those in the village. And
so grateful, receive wholeheartedly, and return same to you and to our viewers.
Thanks a lot.